All right, and we're back. Let's see if I'm a little bit more out of my head. Governor's dressing room. July 7th, Governor's dressing room. Ah, Lenoir! What? What has happened? I heard that Mr. Latouche has died. Lenoir, you speak? I mean, you speak English? Yes. I was invited here from the Republic of Borginia. But I am not Borginian by birth. But wasn't Mr. Latouche your interpreter? Yes, well, it was Mr. Latouche's idea. He thought it would add to the mystery, you see. Then, your pianist is also... No, Maki Tobai is Borginian. He does not speak English. Now, please, tell me. What has happened to Mr. Latouche? Why did he... Actually, Mr. Latouche was... Trucy! Huh? Remember what Prosecutor Gavin said? Not a word. But Mr. Latouche is Lenoir's manager. It's not fair to her. I mean, isn't she a related party? Precisely who Prosecutor doesn't want to alert, I suspect. All you've been told is to wait here in this room. It's very unsettling. I'm sorry, we're trying to figure it out ourselves. Do you think I could ask you some questions? Of course. I am always willing to help. She's as calm as she looked on stage. I can't put my finger on why, but I like this Lenoir. Wingdings! What is it, Maki? Webdings! Wait, was that a Hadouken symbol? What? But you'd be all alone. That is a Hadouken symbol. Look at that. He's shooting an energy projectile right there. What seems to be the problem? Maki, he is not good around strangers. He wishes to go out for a breath of fresh air. That be all right? Sure, of course. Very well. What is it you wish to ask me about? The Republic of Borginia. That's in Northern Europe, right? I've never even heard of it. I started out singing in a restaurant. Then a producer called me. Before I knew it, here I am. Don't say. You know, my daddy plays piano in a restaurant. Producers tend to look for talent, Trucy. Lenoir, you're not from Borginia originally? Were you born here? Well... Oh, is that supposed to be a secret? Image is everything when you're a star. I know a bit about that, of course. Yes, it is something like this. A contract, you might say. I'm also not to speak anything but a Borginian in public. Image is important, I guess. She's not all image, though. Her songs are lovely. A real landscape painter in sound. Painter in what? She travels the world turning the sights she sees into music. That's the secret to your music's beauty, right? You're very perceptive. No, I use your songs all the time in my stage act. I don't have to pay royalties for that, do I? Stop while you're ahead, Trucy. Stop while you're ahead! This landscape painter in sound, too, is an image. Yet without it, my songs would not be so widely heard. They even call you the siren of the ballad, right? Yes, in Borginian, Lenoir means the siren. I fear that, perhaps, already I am not the siren I once was. Your pianist, Maki, was it? He's cute, like a porcelain doll. He's very European. I met him while singing in restaurants in Borginia. He is an orphan. Yet his playing is exquisite. Soon, he came to live with me. It's like a fairy tale almost. I notice he hardly leaves your side. Yes, well, he is blind. At first, I hesitated at dragging him across the world. He doesn't speak English either, does he? He never left Borginia before we met. I made his presence part of my contract. Maki and I together are L'Amour. Together, always. Alright. Tell me about Romain Lettuce. I mean, Roman Lettuce. Mr. Lettuce was my new manager. New? Rosita, welcome! Yes, from 3 months ago. Around when I received Mr. Gavin's invitation to come. I met Mr. Lettuce at my office. He was to be my manager and bodyguard. And, as it turned out, my interpreter. Interpreter? Even though you speak English. Yes, but we were to visit more places than just here. We had a concert in Japan scheduled after this one. Though I fear that may have to be cancelled now. I wonder if in the original Japanese dub that said, oh, I had a concert in America after this, but I guess that's cancelled now. Probably, right? Was Mr. Lettuce from the Republic of Borginia too? Well, he was only with me for 3 months. I'm afraid there is much I do not know about him. Much I do not know about him. Now, I shall never know. No one will even tell me why he has died. I'm sorry. Prosecutor Gavin said we weren't to talk to anyone. Mr. Lettuce was a talented man. The siren of the ballad. That phrase was his idea, you know? I am happy for him that it became so well known. The siren. That's what he meant. Huh? The Apollo? You are the siren, right, L'Amour? That is the meaning of my name in Borginian, yes? Yes. That is the meaning of my name in Borginian, yes. It was the name my producer gave me, but why do you ask? It's very important. I had to know for sure if the siren was you. What do you mean important? I'll tell you. You deserve to know. Siren. It turns out that's a very important word in this case. How? When we found Mr. Lettuce, he was still alive. What? I heard him say something. His last words. Sorry, I'm coughing up a storm right now. He said siren? Really? I was the only one there to hear it, but I'm sure that's what he said. Mr. Lettuce said that? Ask the witness. And you're the siren, L'Amour. Did you see what happened? L'Amour? Might I ask, are you with the police? Well, no, I'm a defense attorney. An attorney? There have been no arrests, yes? Is that a problem? Does an attorney not work for a client? If you have no client, you should leave the investigation to the police, I think. But L'Amour, I'm sorry, but I cannot answer your questions. I'm afraid you lack the authority to ask them. Why? If she witnessed the crime, why won't she tell us? I believe we are through here. I believe so. Alright, but more importantly, badge! Damn, don't worry about it. Certainly one of the most pleasant refusals I've had. She doesn't even care about her own postcard. What about this lyrics sheet? She doesn't know about the lyrics either. Alright, well, I guess it's time to go. Let's check on her dressing room. I guess not. Then the stage, perhaps? Alright, maybe there's something in the dressing room now that has changed. You see the words written upon the postcard? They say a landscape painter and sound. Landscape painter and sound? That's a nice image. And a whole bunch of nothing else. Hey, this is yours. That reminds me. Does this brooch look familiar to you? My brooch? Yes? Well, it may be mine. Yours, Lamoire? I was wearing a brooch earlier, you see. I must have lost it. Well, that explains the brooch we found. It was Lamoire's. Thank you. I was wondering where I dropped it. So this brooch belongs to her. That begs the question. Is something wrong, Apollo? What was this brooch doing at the crime scene? What about these keys? Nah, you don't care about keys. And is this your .45 caliber revolver? Of course not. Alright, well. Now I should be able to move. Whoa! Who's there now? Ah, it's you. Where were you? Emma? Is something wrong? She looks grumpier than usual. You bet something's wrong. The impossible's happened. It's all your fault. It's all your fault, you know. Oops. Maybe this is about us leaving the crime scene. What do you mean by impossible? Well, it's gone. Utterly gone. What's gone? The body's stupid. What else? Mr. Latouse's body has disappeared. What? Fucking Apollo. Should have left Trucy here. Ah, Prosecutor Gavin. From your vacant stare, I gather you heard the news. I've heard Mr. Latouse's body has gone missing. Look for yourself. Quite the pickle. Quite the pickle. How can you just stand there? We have to start a... There's no need for alarm, Fraulein Detective. All entrances and exits have been sealed. The body will not leave the building. So I suggest we go find ourselves a cadaver. There will be plenty of time to ponder the whys later. Well, you seem pretty sure of yourself, Mr. Gavin. Oh, we'll find him. I'm rather enjoying this. How could Mr. Latouse's body just disappear? Well, you heard the man. Let's get searching. Hey, I don't know if this is exactly the right time, but... Yes, Darian? See, Geeter's gone missing. It was in the dressing room. Geeter? Who's Geeter? That's what I call my guitar. You like, man? Your guitar was stolen? This hasn't been a good day for guitars or Geeters. Okay, body first, then guitar. And if someone finds that guitar, please bring it to our dressing room. Geeter's like a missing person, not a lost and found man. Well, I'm so sorry, Emma. Well, this sure is a... What did he call it? A sausage? No, wait, it was a pickle. And it's your pickle! I told you to stay in the room! Sorry. Not much else I can say. It's alright. Top priority now is finding that body. You can make it up to me later. 10 bags or so of chocolate snack juice should do the trick nicely. You should watch your sugar intake, Emma. And you don't care about any of that. And I shouldn't do that yet. I should examine the lack of a body. There should be a body here. But there's not. How could this have happened? And why? Well, we know exactly why this happened. Or sorry, we know exactly how this happened, just not why. Anything else changed in the scene? Doesn't really look like it. Watermelon still has a bite out of it. There's Still 2 bullet holes in the wall. Alright. Hallway. Let's go to the stage. Oh, hey, the lights are different. Does something seem different to you, Apollo? Something is definitely different here. Let's check it out. I'm not sure that's all that important right now. Let's check out that thing in the middle of the stage. You mean this thing? That stage there must have been lowered before. That's the tower that Lemoir and Prosecutor Gavin was singing on. Someone must have raised it. Huh. I don't see a way to control it from here. Apollo, what about that ladder there against the wall? We could use that to take a look up top. Maybe we should get Emma. What are you talking about? We have to see this sort of thing we have to see this sort of thing we have to see this sort of thing for ourselves. Man, more words in my mouth. I'm not so good with heights. Stop whining and start climbing. Ugh. Didn't look that high from below, really. When we got to the top, I felt every one of those 15 feet down. Of course, I wasn't thinking about the height anymore. Not after what we found up there. We found 2 things we were looking for, and one we never expected to find. Body, guitar in hand, and the pianist Maki Tobaya. The dawn of the next day. Wow, that concert last night sure went south in a hurry. No kidding. Why did they arrest Maki? Why? Don't look at me like it's my fault. Maki Tobaya, the blind pianist, arrested on suspicion of murdering Romain Latouche. Can't believe such a cute little boy could do something so horrible. I guess they had proof of some kind. What proof could possibly prove that? Morning. Prosecutor Gavin? What a night, eh? I apologize for being so upset. Mr. Gavin, do you know what's going on? Why did they arrest Maki? Why? Don't look at him like it's his fault either. It was tough for me too. We performed together that night after all. Yet? Powers that be say that, given the circumstances, it could only have been him. You're saying that a small child fired 2 shots of a .45 caliber revolver that they were saying would strain your shoulder if you fired it. If it was a child, it would do a little bit more than that. What do you mean by the circumstances? Lemoir was invited from Borginia as an ambassador of goodwill. It's vital that this case be wrapped up swiftly. That's all the powers that be wants, really. Well, those are circumstances, all right. But what makes Maki the only possible suspect? Yeah, forehead. You seem to have forgotten that you're talking to the prosecution. The enemy. Ah, right. But Gavin, I don't have a client yet. I'm not the attorney. I'm not necessarily the enemy. You can tell me everything. Just because I could be your enemy doesn't mean you should withhold information. I think I like this side of Prosecutor Gavin better, actually. I'm not at liberty to discuss the particulars of the case. Especially not to the defense attorney. What? Did you just say? Me, the defense attorney? That's what I came to tell you. He's down at the detention center. He wants to request your services. You mean Maki? Maki wants me? This is what we've been waiting for, Apollo. Let's get going! Right. Good luck. I'm off to question Lemoir. Right. Later. I hope I'm up to this. In before he also speaks English. Well, I just don't get it. I refuse to believe a cute little kid like that could do something so terrible. You said that already. Maki, everything's going to be okay. We're here for you. Hi. Maybe you can tell me about last night? Webdings! Huh? Wingdings! Webdings. That was when I realized how tough it must be. A little kid like this, in a country so far from everything he's ever known. Maybe Lamroar can help? But didn't Prosecutor Gavin say she was with him? Uh-oh. No interpreter. Well, what are we going to do? That's, a good question. I can't think of anything we can do but go with this. And hope for the best at the trial tomorrow. Wingdings 2 Webdings! To be continued. Nice. Continue on. Court is now in session for... How do I say that? Maki Tobaya, Your Honor. Pixie of the Arpeggio. Right. His trial. Court is now in session. The defense is ready, Your Honor. The prosecution is A-OK, our judge. Very well. Prosecutor Gavin. My opening statement, yeah? No, actually. There was something else I wanted to ask you about. Yes? Say you're going to visit someone in the hospital with an incurable disease. What do you say to them? I mean, you wouldn't say, get well soon, right? You'd only be kicking them when they're down. What are you talking about? Actually, I'm going to visit someone who is terminally ill. Right after this trial. The Chief Justice's son. Chief Justice? His son is afflicted with a most terrible disease. He doesn't have long, it seems. So I thought I'd go pay him a visit. I thought saying something moving might be the order of the day. Why don't grown-ups ever just say what's on their mind instead of pretending? She's looking at me with something like disgust. Hey, what are you looking at me like that for? In any case, I'm a bit busy today, so let's wrap this up quickly. Prosecutor Gavin, your opening statement, briefly. You're in luck, Herr Judge. I believe you'll be going on your hospital visit sooner than you think. First, to review the victim in this case. Romaine Lettuce, age... I'll just say Romaine Lettuce. Romaine Lettuce, age 35. That's enough paying respects to the name by making it sound like a name rather than just a pun. The global manager for diva songstress Lamroar. Cause of death? Blood loss due to being shot by a large caliber revolver. This report has all the details. The court accepts this into evidence. Where's all my other evidence? I guess that's a new page. Yeah, that's just a new page. Got it. 45 caliber. That's quite large, isn't it? A direct hit from that could knock a man off his feet. However, the bullet struck him in his shoulder. The damage to the body was slight. Death was not immediate. Sadly, his blood loss was such that he could not be saved. I suppose the victim's condition could have been much worse considering. Yo, we got a photo too. 2 shots were fired. 1 shot missed, the other penetrated and passed through the victim's shoulder. Both bullets were found in the wall of the scene. Observe the diagram. This is where the bullets hit. I see. Court accepts this evidence. We're talking about a 45 caliber revolver. We must assume that the killer was adept at the weapon's use. Really? Yeah, apparently weapons that size have a powerful kickback. If, say, the judge tried to fire one, it'd break every bone in his body. The defense will take more care in choosing examples. As I was saying, the victim was shot backstage in the dressing room. This dressing room has only one entrance, this door. That does seem to be the case, yes. However, there were witnesses who heard the gunshots. It's talking about you and Emma, huh? As when the witnesses entered the room, it was empty, save for the victim's body, of course. But that's impossible! Exactly. This murder was impossible. For all but one person. One person? That is, of course, the defendant, Maki Tobae. Only this defendant could have committed the crime? But how? It's quite simple. The circumstances of the crime make it clear. Very well. I assume you have testimony to back up this claim. Please show the witness to the stand. Your name and profession, please. Emma Sky. I'm a detective for the police department. I was on security detail at the concert forum that night. Emma seems tired somehow. Security at the concert, you say? Some security I was. Couldn't even stop a murder. Don't blame yourself. Things like this happen. I've made even bigger mistakes in my career, you know? I'm sure that makes her feel much better. I want to hear about these bigger mistakes. In any case, because you were on security detail, the crime was quickly discovered. And we were able to identify the killer. You may give the court your testimony, if you would. Describe the circumstances of that day and your discovery of the crime, please. All right. The night of the murder, I was on security backstage at Prosecutor Gavin's request. Only people involved with the concert in some way were allowed backstage. At the beginning of the third set, I heard shots. I went into the room, filled with blaring rock music, and found the body. I examined the scene and determined that only the defendant could have done it. I'm gonna press that last statement real fast. That door was the only way out of the room, right? Yeah, pretty much. I don't get it. How can they say that Maki did it? Looks like we need a bit more information. Cross-examination time. Going straight to the content. Nothing's wrong with that. Elaborate on this, please. How could you know something like that? As I said, it was clear from the circumstances. Listen. We know there was only one exit from that room. That door. Small window only opened a tiny crack. And I was standing out in front of that door. So, how could the killer fled the scene? There's only one possibility. The air vent. Ah. But that air vent was too small. Who could possibly... Exactly. There's certainly no way you could get through. There's certainly no way you could get through. Nor me. The only one who could fit through was a child. A child. Remember, access to those rooms was limited. Only those involved with the concert were allowed. And of all the people involved with the concert, only one is small enough to be considered a child. The defendant? Pixie of the Arpeggio flitted up towards the sky and disappeared from the scene of the crime. Objection! But that's just conjecture! Oh? There was no other way out of that room. You were there. You should know, Air Forehead. And there is another vital piece of evidence. Evidence? What? Marks were found on the air vent grill. Traces that it had recently been opened. Wait, what? And something else was found, quite clearly. The defendant, Maki Tobae's fingerprints. What?! That air vent was the only way out of the room. The defendant's fingerprints were found on the grill. Well, Air Forehead, what fairy tale does this suggest to you? Only one could pass through that vent, that doorway to heaven. And that one is our Pixie. Why are you looking at me, Apollo? Hey, I was out whooping it up with the audience. So this was his decisive evidence. Quite decisive indeed. I know the circumstances under which the body was found. I was there. Examination of the crime scene was enough to nail down the killer? I'm sure they have a good reason. Must have had a good reason to arrest Maki. And I'm going to find out what it was. Okay, I guess they're gonna have me press everything else then. The night of the murder was the night of the concert, yes? That's right. What was the detective doing on security detail, might I ask? If it was only a concert. My thoughts exactly. But orders are orders, even when they come from rock gods. Prosecutor Gavin? Yes, allow me to explain. I smelled something that day, you might say. The stench of conspiracy. That day at the concert hall. Conspiracy? Well, isn't it obvious? My keys! That whole morning, no. The whole day was ruined. It's all because someone stole my keys. I couldn't ride my hog to the show. I couldn't open my guitar case. There he goes again. Isn't it possible he just misplaced them? Misplaced them? Misplaced items don't just wander to a murder victim's hand on their own. What's this? Prosecutor Gavin, if your keys were in the victim's hand, that makes you a prime suspect. Love, slow acting and new. Atroquinine? Atroquinine is waiting for you. He's singing something. Does everything with this guy have to be so over the top? The killing happened in the middle of my concert. I was like a sailor, adrift on a sea of sound. Anyway, I didn't want anything else stolen. So I put the detective with the most time on their hands on the task. Wow! I see, I can accept that. Well, I can't. What do you mean time on their hands? Please, the testimony. We were let in, though. I don't know about that. I certainly didn't invite you. I gave the Fraulein special permission to be there. I wanted to see her again. Oh boy, did you hear that? We're officially involved now. Gee, great. Some other hangers-on tried to get backstage, but I drove them off. So no other outsiders were there then. And then... I believe we were having a chat when we heard the shots. You were the one chatting. I was eating snackoos. Hey, no snacking in court! And you're sure the shots came from Lenoir's room? Yes, absolutely. Hey, I'm the one being cross-examined here. Here, this'll keep you quiet. Ka-thunk. Thanks. So, how about Emma? We were right there. Hard to be mistaken about that. Please either talk or eat. Not both at the same time. Right, so after that, me and Mr. Lawyer there opened the dressing room door. I love snackoos. Rock? Blaring, yes. When you say rock, are you referring, perhaps, to this rock and roll music that's so popular these days? That's right, when we went into the dressing room, music was blaring over the speaker on the wall. It piped sound from the stage into the backstage to the speakers. That way, people in the back can hear when they're supposed to be on stage. Did it have to be so loud? You don't listen to the Gaviniers with your ears. You feel it with your entire body and soul. I always have the backstage monitors at full volume. When we walked into the room, the band was playing Guilty Love, I believe, making it easy to determine the time of the crime. You could hear that music playing. Then everyone on stage for that song has an alibi, including myself. Anyway, I closed off the scene and started my investigation. Damn. Prosecution has a rather convincing case. The only way in and out of the crime scene was watched, making the defendant the only one who could possibly leave the scene. Simple and decisive. I believe we've heard enough to determine our verdict. even if I wasn't in a hurry to make a hospital visit. I'm sure the Chief Justice will appreciate the gesture. Unfortunately, we have no direct witnesses. Fortunately, the criminal left decisive evidence for us. That will have to be enough. It can't be over already. Very well. Very well, I believe this trial is finished. The defense has no contradicting evidence. Prosecution has presented our proof, clear and plain. If you have contradicting evidence, it better be clear and plain. Apollo, they've got us on the ropes already. Better come up with something quick. I know. What can get us out of this? We need evidence or a witness that can prove Maki is innocent beyond a doubt. Without that... Mr. Justice? Do you have contradicting proof that can overturn the prosecution's case? If you do, you'd better tell us about it now. This is it. And so soon. I messed this one up, it's all over. The court wants contradicting proof? I'm gonna call a witness. Prosecutor Gavin, you claim that there were no witnesses to this crime. Are you absolutely sure? Absolutely. I'd swear on my career as a prosecutor. And on my million-seller hit, Atraquinine, my love. Atraquinine. And there he goes again. That's too bad, because there was a witness. Oh, really now? But how do you come to possess knowledge that the prosecution clearly does not? Because I'm the only one in the world who knows this. Mr. Lettuce! The victim said this before he died? Perhaps he did, and perhaps he did not. What do you mean by that? All we know is what Air Forehead says he said. It is no testimony, especially since it comes from the defense attorney himself. Objection! But it's the truth! He said it! I even told you about it. But apparently you ignored me completely. It's my policy to fully investigate everything I deem relevant. Clearly this rookie lawyer thinks he can tell me how to do my job. That's enough. Mr. Justice, we need a clear contradictory proof from you. This witness of yours, unknown to the prosecution, I hope you're right. Failure carries a stiff penalty. Perhaps a stiffer penalty than usual is called for. There's no backing out now. Let's hear the name of your witness, Mr. Justice. Lamoire. Call Mr. Latusse's last words. The siren. Aha! He meant the siren! That's right. The siren of the ballad, Lamoire. Lamoire was the only one on stage. Was only on stage for the second set. She had access to the backstage area. She could have been a witness. I see. Well, Prosecutor Gavin, my claim still stands. There was no witness to this crime. Very well. Let's hear it from the horse's mouth then, shall we? We will now take a break from Detective Emma Sky's cross-examination. Please, show Lamoire to the witness stand. Lamoire would say nothing the night of the murder. Not today, though. Today we'll drag that story out of her no matter what it is. It is my distinct honor to welcome the siren of the ballad to our courtroom. You are too kind. You can speak English? Yes. Yes, I can. Though I am not very good. There is much I do not know. You speak so well. Have you spent time here before? Actually, I do not know how I came by my knowledge of your language, nor where I studied it. What does she mean she doesn't know? I, too, thought to call her as a witness, but I did not. I had a reason, of course. What's that? Lamoire suffers from amnesia. Amnesia? Lamoire is not my true name, yet I remember nothing of the time before I was given it. Nothing of the time before I started singing on stage. Wow, she's even more mysterious than I thought. As lauded singer Lamoire, she lives a good life. There are little difficulties for her thanks to her success. Yet, I did not wish to subject her to unnecessary stress. I see. I care surprisingly little about people's pasts. You have nothing to fear in this court, Lemoir. Thank you. Yet there is something I do not understand. I'm being called as a witness? What might I say? No one will tell me anything of what happened. Lemoir, let me be frank. I do not want to ask you up here to testify. Yet that young gentleman with the wide forehead over there was adamant that you stand. Oh my! Congratulations, Apollo. You're the bad guy. Well, now that you're here, please give us your testimony. If nothing else, the sound of your voice is welcome. Tell us what you saw the night of the crime. As for what I saw nothing. That night, I was invited to sing on stage, and this I did. I did not return backstage after the second set. Then, I was led by the police to Mr. Gavin's dressing room and was told to wait there. That was where I learned that something had happened, but I wasn't told the details. Alright, but where were you after the second set? I must say, you sound wonderful just testifying. I hope he was too distracted to hear... Okay, that is what it says. I hope he was too distracted to hear what she was actually saying. There you have it. She saw nothing that night. Now we can only pray that the defense has the sense to admit defeat, and refrain from detaining her here longer than need be. Wow, you just got better, Apollo. Way to go. Very well, Mr. Justice. Very well, Mr. Justice. Keep it short and sweet. Memoir wouldn't talk to me the night of the crime. She must know something, and I've got to find out what. But you must have seen something. Mr. Lettuce named you. Mr. Lettuce? Mr. Lettuce? How can I tell you what I don't know? Lemoir, he said that you were a witness with his dying words. I did not know what he meant to say, but that night... It was a great concert. You heard me sing? Thank you. I was hoping to get an autograph later, actually. Of course. Mr. Justice, this is a cross-examination. You're out of line. If anyone deserves an autograph here, it's me. One on my gavel would be nice. Herr Judge. What's this? It's my autograph. Now keep this trial moving. What? Oh, my grandchild will be so happy. Apparently his grandson is a big fan. Let us continue, shall we? If you would, Lemoir. Tell us what you did after your stellar performance. Then where did you go? You did not return backstage once? Where were you then? What were you doing? I was cleaning up on stage. There were many things I must do for a performance other than simply sing. And was Maki with you at the time? Unfortunately, I do not know where he was. So much for an alibi for Maki. With Maki, correct? How was he then? He seemed as he always does. Though I do believe he was shocked by the news of Mr. Lettuce's death. Yet, he is not the type to show such emotion. Much emotion. Yes, he's given the police no end of headaches. He answers most questions with silence, and those glinting frames speak nothing. The questioning hasn't gotten very far. We sat there, waiting. I mean, of course the questions aren't gonna get very far if you don't have an interpreter. Why did you split them up? At least let her serve as an interpreter. How was the incident explained to you? I was told nothing in detail. Only that Mr. Lettuce died. Of course, investigations require some scrutiny. But Mr. Lettuce was my manager. I wanted to know more. I should have been told. Both Maki and I were beside ourselves with concern. Allow me to apologize. But please, understand. Keeping you in the dark was as painful for me as it was for you. Yes, I understand. doesn't ring true about her testimony. It's hard to imagine Lenoir lying. She might not be lying, but she's hiding something. What wouldn't she tell me about the night of the murder? Where were you? Let's talk about your brooch.
Objection!
I'm sorry, Lenoir, but I'm having trouble believing you. You remember this brooch, do you not? Why, that's Lenoir's. She was wearing it for her song. Care to add to that testimony, Prosecutor Gavin? What? This brooch was found after the murder took place, at the very scene of the crime. What? Lenoir, how did your brooch get backstage if you did not go there yourself? And as Prosecutor Gavin has just told us, you had been wearing it during your performance that night. What is the meaning of this? Lenoir, please explain. Lenoir? She says English is quite difficult. That trick's not going to work here. Wingdings. Your forehead may be large, but you are a lawyer, truly. But you have missed one important fact. What now? In fact, at the time of the incident, I went backstage, but only for a moment. What? Think back to the moment of the crime. You know whereof I speak. Is she really saying all that? What's she talking about, Apollo? Right when the incident occurred. Is she talking about that? Right, understood. No one comes in, no one gets out. I looked into the room. Just a glance, mind you. So this is when your brooch dropped? That explains that. It does. There was no other time I could have dropped it. But that's ridiculous! You only looked in for an instance, but you dropped your brooch? Her forehead. She has raised a possibility. The only thing that can counter that is evidence. So she looked in at the crime scene. Actually, I intended to go into the dressing room. I knew nothing of what had happened, of course. But the moment I opened the door, I heard a horrible voice. Her forehead shouting, "Who's there?" No doubt. A horrible voice indeed. Ugh, don't make fun of my cords of steel. I closed the door immediately. Well, that explains the brooch. Let's return to your testimony. It's too convenient. She's hiding something. Lenoir, you did look into the room though, right? Yes. Testify as to what you saw. Very well, though it was only the briefest of glimpses. Oh hey, I can perceive now. Let's take a look at the layout real quick. His body was poking enough out where she would have been able to see it if she really came in through the door.
Hold it!
A wall? Was there a wall in there? Is what in English? A division, or a partition, I believe. Large dressing room, divided in two halves. And the murder took place in the inside half. I guess that partition might have hidden the body. Alright, well, we're allowed to perceive now, so let's take a look. Let's hear it again. How are you saying it without saying anything? I can't look at the rest of her. Hey, why do you assume that he was late?
Gotcha!
Oh, that's not at all where I was focusing on. She was apparently doing a gulp? The late Mr. Latusse's body, you say? Yes? You know something more about Mr. Lettuce's death than you're saying. What? I could see you trying not to remember, but the effort made you swallow. Gulp D's! What's up, Nova? You can't fool my eyes. It is true. It was so terrible after all. Why did Mr. Lettuce have to be shot? One moment, Lamoire. Yes? What was that you just said? Why did Mr. Lettuce have to be shot? Yes? She was hiding something. I knew it. Lamoire, I'm afraid you haven't realized it, but your words just now contradict your testimony. How could that be? Take this! Lamoire contradicted her own testimony, and I have the evidence to prove it.
Take that!
I do not misunderstand the meaning of contradiction. It is you who contradict, Mr. Justice. Oh no! Your evidence, it is meaningless. What? But you couldn't see the bullet holes? You couldn't see the body, as you said? He shot, that's right. Fine, let's take a look at stuff. Speak to no one outside the investigation concerning any details of the case. I mean, then you would have to have seen that he was shot. Let's present this. Damn. She say again, why did Mr. Lettuce have to be shot? That's totally contradicts her testimony. I don't remember her testimony. I just jumped to here, basically. She hasn't seen that. It's not the diagram, it's not the crime photo. I guess investigation request?
Take that!
Tell me, Lenoir, how did you know he had been shot? Huh? Well, immediately following the incident, a gag order was placed on the scene. This is the document proving that. In your testimony, you told the court, no one told me anything about the incident. Furthermore, you testified that you had seen nothing. Yet you knew that Mr. Latouche had been shot. How could you have known? York! What are you, a fuzzy? Me, Ark. Lenoir! You aren't hiding something from this court, I hope? She's a fuzzy. これはペンです. This is a pen. That sweet song of hers was sounding a little too sweet. Now I remember. Please, allow me to add to my testimony. Of course. All we want to know is the truth. She looks kind of pale, huh? She saw something, I know it. Even the victim said so. Alright, what a load of bullshit.
Objection!
Lenoir, they call you the siren of the ballad, but lies are hardly becoming of such a creature. A put down worthy of our prosecutor, Mr. Justice. Such put-downs are hardly becoming of you, Apollo. Stop polishing your forehead and start polishing your character, yeah? Come on, can't I be cool for once? Observe the diagram. Lanoir, you looked in from the door for just a moment, correct? Yes, that is so. There were bullet holes in the room, yes. But they were in the wall. The door is on. Huh? You see? Assuming you merely glanced into the room, you couldn't have seen those bullet holes. She is a fuzzy. Miark. Stole Cooper's blue shell. Unbelievable. Lanoir. Yes? I'm afraid the defense has raised a good point. It appears you have been holding back on something. And I must tell you what it is that I saw. Yes. The happenings in this trial are being recorded, and I'm certain it will be on the news in Borginia. You understand your reputation is at stake. It falls to you to avoid tarnishing it. Personally speaking, I still believe that cross-examining her will yield us absolutely nothing. But she knew how Mr. Lutus died, and he named her as a witness. You must have seen something, Lanoir. I keep going between Mr. Lutus and Mr. Lettuce. Lanoir, please continue your testimony. Very well, I shall. Part 2. Let's go. What I saw too. I was on my way from the stage to the backstage exit. There was something like a little window there. That's how I saw it. There were 2 shots. I couldn't do anything to stop it. But it wasn't Maki. It was a grown person. I know it was. So you did witness the crime. And the killer was a grown person, you say? Ah, this is my first time hearing this, I assure you. Nice play, Fair Forehead. Very well, Mr. Justice. You may begin your cross-examination. Great going, Apollo. You were right about Lanoir. What's wrong? You don't look too happy. This whole thing smells fishy. That's what's wrong. So you were heading towards the dressing room? Yes. So this is a little before she opened the dressing room door and dropped her brooch. About the same time Emma and I heard those shots. I was on my way back. A little window. Let's talk about that little window. What exactly is something like a little window? Yes, well, window is the best word I know in English. I think this is how it is said, yes? You need not worry, Lanoir. Your choice of words is impeccable. There's a small window in the dressing room in question. Perhaps the defense remembers this detail? That little window on the wall. I saw the scene of... I saw the crime from there. 2 shots. You are certain you heard 2 shots fired? Yes, quite certain. I was on my way to the backstage exit. This is when I heard a faint sound, like a gunshot. Wondering what it had been, I peered through the window. That is what I heard. That is when I heard the second shot. Much closer. Those shots were like immediately one after another when we heard it. And there were 2 bullet holes at the scene. No contradictions so far. It all happened on the other side of that window. There was nothing I could do. It wasn't Maki who shot. Are you sure? Yes, quite certain. It amuses me that you would question her testimony. It is testimony in your favor. Isn't it my job to object? Yeah, Apollo, what were you thinking? Trucy, let's just listen to what Lanoir has to say. Can you tell me about how you were so sure? Yes, of course. You see, it was a grown person. I know it was. A grown person? That's a little vague. I am sorry. My skill with your language is lacking, I know. Certainly you could at least see whether the shooter was male or female. It was a man. A young man. And you're sure of that? Yes, his voice was quite clear. His voice? Looking at this diagram, it seems the dressing room was quite cluttered. It does seem likely that you wouldn't have had a clear view of the shooter. As a singer, I rely more on my ears than my eyes. When I hear a voice, I do not forget it. That voice was the voice of a man. So you heard a voice, but wait. Wouldn't that have been the victim, Mr. Lettuce? Absolutely not. Did I not just say that I do not forget a voice? If it was Mr. Lettuce who spoke, I would have known. Indeed. So you were at the window and you heard the shooter's voice, the voice of a young man. Apollo, this is a good testimony. That proves it wasn't Maki. Indeed. If this turns out to be true, it would cast this case in a considerably different light. What is the defense's opinion on this testimony? It's contradictory. Though it pains me to say it. There's something about this Lamoire's testimony that rings false. Bravo, Air Forehead. You're colder than I thought. I'm sure you remember what the problem is as well as I do, Gavin. As has been established, no grown man could pass through that air vent. He couldn't have fled the scene of the crime. But that means Lamoire has to be lying. I know it's bad for our case, but I can't shut my eyes to this. Believe me, the idea was tempting. It is as Air Forehead says. Yet, this is not the only contradiction within her testimony. What next? What's he talking about? Lamoire, I understand why you would want to protect Maki. Yet remember, you are the siren of the ballad. And lies do not become such a creature. What does the prosecution mean? Apollo, what's he talking about? How come no one bats an eye when he says stuff like that? I recall the state of the crime quite well. State of the room? Yes, when the murder took place. When you got there, wasn't there no longer a body? That window was closed. I find it hard to believe you could hear a voice through it. But I'm sure. Lamoire, I have nothing but the highest regard for your musical sense. But my opinion of you as a witness is somewhat lesser.
Objection!
But she's the only eyewitness we have.
Objection!
So you say. And the victim named her the siren as the witness. That's right. That's what Mr. Lettuce... We heard your claim. We even entertained the possibility. And it brought us to this. Judge. Yes? Prosecution requests that the witness be excused. Please. I'm afraid I must honor the prosecution's request. There is indeed a question of the witness's credibility. But Lamoire can't But if Lamoire can't testify, then we don't have a chance of proving Maki's innocence. This cross-examination is over. Prosecutor Gavin, may you continue making your case. Danke. Now, where were we? Yes, I would like to hear from Fraulein Detective again.
Objection!
Wait! Let me hear Lamoire's testimony one last time. The cross-examination is already over. Until such a time as a need arises. This witness may leave the stand. I'm sorry I could not be of more assistance. Ton. At last, back to the real trial. Ready, Air Forehead? I hope I didn't just miss my only chance. Fraulein Detective, how far had we gotten until we were so rudely interrupted? Don't ask me! I just like saying the same thing twice. And I never repeat a song for an encore. If you would, Miss Sky. I believe I was saying the only way Mr. Lettuce's killer could have escaped was through that air vent on the ceiling. Ah, yes, there was only one door in that room. And a witness, you, was standing in front of it. That air vent isn't very big, see? Kind of limits people who could possibly get through. I certainly would have a difficult time. You sure would. Wow. Not that you would have been there in the first place, though. Wow, what if he likes their music? Remember, the whole backstage area was off limits to people not involved with the concert, Wow, what if he got an invite? The only one who meets the conditions for our killer is the defendant. A virtuoso performance. I couldn't have put it better myself. She does state a clear case. Though, reading the report, something caught my eye. Oh, what's that? The circumstances of the defendant's arrest. The circumstances? Again? Hey, that's right, Apollo. Remember when we found Maki? That was bizarre. She's right. Why did Mr. Lettuce's body disappear from the room and end up on top of that stage tower? Holding a guitar, no less. Perceptive observation there, Judge. Thanks. It was kind of an accident, really. But you work in this job long enough. You get a nose for things. The judge sure seems pleased with himself. Very good, Fraulein Detective. Perhaps you can tie it all together for us. Why was the body moved? And how does that lead us to the killer? I believe Maki stole the body because of some lyrics. He moved the body to match Lamoire's song. No one in this country had a motive to kill the victim. And Maki practically left his signature at the scene. All of this evidence clearly points to the defendant. His signature? Lamoire's song? Yes, the guitar's serenade. You notice it's code too, did you not? It's code? All the events that day followed the lyrics to our song. First, the keys my heart held on to so tightly were stolen. Then, prosecutor... Oh. Wait, hold on, was that... Oh, that was Clavier saying that, okay. Then, Prosecutor Gavin's guitar burst into flames on stage. Mr. Lettuce's life was taken by a bullet. The rest hardly needs an explanation. Guitar, guitar, up together to the sky. That's mad! It's like a story out of some fairy tale. I admit I'd forgotten about the song. There it is now, waiting for me. The grand finale, as it were. Hey! I was the one who noticed that. I was the one who first noticed that. I've heard of jumping rope to songs and counting the songs. But killing? It's a wild world out there, Judge. Very well. We've heard one song and dance, let's get on to the next, the cross-examination. Not so sure I'm going to be doing much singing. But what about your chords of steel, Apollo? I believe in your singing.
Hold it!
Who would steal a body just to match some lyrics? I didn't believe it myself, but it can't just be a coincidence. As Fraulein Detective says. Let us begin with the first verse, if you would, Fraulein Detective. What? You want me to sing it? You are the witness, yeah? Or do you want me to sing? I warned you, my fee as a vocalist is not trivial. Fine. Now, let's look at the first part of the lyrics, shall we? I'm not gonna sing this. Yeah. Indeed, my favorite heart-shaped keyring was stolen that morning. Next, we go to the right page of the lyrics sheet, where we find burning on in my heart, fire, burn my love away, all away. Blah, 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 blah. As we know, Prosecutor Gavin's guitar burst into flame. Oh, we're gonna hear this song so many times. Mr. Lettuce's life was taken by a bullet. Bravo, Fraulein Detective. You're singing. It's not bad. Now, for the finale. As it says in the lyrics, Mr. Lettuce was found with a guitar, high in the sky over the stage. No series of coincidences could be so well conceived. He's right, scientifically speaking. What would Waki have said? That concert was whack. What would Waki have said? There we go. That's a bit better emphasis. It's hard to argue when she pours her heart into it like that. Anyway, the shooter...
Hold it!
Does the prosecution have any idea why he'd do all this? You want my scientific opinion? No clue. But he clearly had a reason to go through all that trouble. Some deep reason. A deep reason? Not only did he steal my keys, he torched my guitar! Unforgivable acts, even if he had a reason. And worse if he had none! The diva's complaints aside, I can't imagine someone just doing this on a whim. Fraulein Detective, I take offense at that description. Indeed, it does seem too well rehearsed, shall we say. Yes, this crime was planned for sure.
Hold it!
But Mr. Lettuce spoke English. He may have come to this country before. I looked into that, I assure you. Oh? It was his first time in the country, it seems. Apparently, he learned English on his own. Great. You see? No one here had a motive to kill him, and certainly not in such an elaborate fashion. Does seem difficult to imagine. Unless our famous prosecutor did it as a publicity stunt. What did you say? Prosecutor Gavin, you did this to promote your song? Of course not. I'm quite dismayed by the ludicrous nature of this claim. Why would I need promotion? Everyone already listens to my music. They're even in my textbook at school. And I have never heard of them. What does this say about me? I was just kidding. Don't get all worked up, Glimmer Boy. And Maki practically left his signature at the scene. Tell me all about his signature. What do you mean by his signature? The bullet holes in the wall, of course. The bullet holes? Ah, we're finally gonna be like, oh, how the hell could a child have shot a .45 caliber bullet? The revolver was fired twice. One shot missed and left a hole in the wall. And that means what exactly? The dressing room isn't exactly spacious. Picture the shooter facing off with the victim in there. They can't have been more than 5 feet apart. It would be difficult, almost impossible to miss at that range. Difficult to miss, you say? Very. Assuming the shooter can properly aim. No. You can't be serious! Maki, he can't see. That's why he missed? It's the only explanation that makes sense. He used sound and other senses to fire the gun. Poorly. That reminds me, the monitor on that room was blaring at the time, yeah? Hardly ideal conditions for tracking by sound. A blind shooter. No wonder he missed. I knew those bullet holes would come back to haunt me. Think justice. What do I do now? Raise an objection. Sure, there were bullet holes in the wall. But that doesn't prove the shooter couldn't see. Oh? How so? Well, there could have been a struggle with the victim. That's certainly possible. And it might have been the revolver's fault. The revolver? The revolver was a very large caliber, correct? And the shooter wasn't used to firing such a large weapon. Why, it could dislocate their shoulder. Exactly. The defendant, Maki Tobaya, is, as you can see, tiny. It's not so hard to picture him firing the gun and missing entirely. The kickback alone would throw off his aim. Apollo? Apollo? I don't think that's the direction you wanted to take that, is it? That's like the exact opposite of what you're supposed to say here. Are you actually a defense attorney? Haha, take that, smug prosecution. Apollo? Huh? What? That bit about Maki being tiny and the gun throwing off his aim? Aren't you kind of admitting that he did it? I think we need to play that video back one more time to be sure. Oh. It does not matter why he missed. What matters is that the shooter was, without a doubt, the defendant. Even the defense seems to agree on that point. Christ, I really put my foot in it this time. But let's get to the matter. Let's get the facts of the matter on the record. If you would, Fraulein Detective. Very well. The defense will add this to her testimony. Right. I'm just gonna take a quick moment. I'm gonna add a marker right here. Split the segment.